Hello and welcome to Between the Lines. On today's episode, I will be speaking with Tyiara Nelson. Hello, Tyiara, and welcome to Between the Lines.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Oh, any better? I'd be twins. Um,
Well, there you go.
Before we get right into the nitty-gritty of the show, I wonder if you'd be willing to give our listening audience a brief who's who or what you're about. So in a couple of minutes, can you just give the audience an idea of what makes Tyiara Tyiara?
I'll do my best. I born and raised in Ontario, Canada. I live in the heart of cottage country in Muskoka. I am 29, so young-ish, I guess, for my writing career, but it's great. I also have two huskies, two dogs, Link and Yoshi. I love them, even though they can be pains sometimes, but we all love our pets. Yeah, other than that, I love reading, writing, music is another big one.
Oh,
But
do
I
you have
think
a favorite genre?
I listen to a lot of different music. My playlist is very much so mixed matched. Like you'll get some 2000s pop songs, some old classic rock. It's a jumble of everything.
I was just looking maybe and hoping that you might turn me on to something that I haven't heard before. A couple of seasons ago, I learned about a group called Crown Lands. Have you heard of them?
Oh, no, I haven't actually.
And they're Canadian, and that's what they like to listen to when they were writing. So, and I had to go investigate, and I liked it. So
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I just put my music on shuffle and away it goes when I write.
there you go. Wonderful. Anything else you'd like to share before we get really going?
I can't really think of anything else at the moment, so I think that's probably good.
All right then. So part one is called question period, and obviously this is where I start asking you questions. So we'll get right into it. Question number one: what inspired you to start writing?
There was a few different factors that got me into writing. Well, for one, like I said, music was always a big thing for me. I've always liked music, so I thought it was neat how you could tell a story in lyrics, and some songs just resonated with me a little bit more, and I would, kind of think of what is the story behind this song, but also read I read a lot, and other authors inspired me to create my own worlds and my own stories. Also, I used to play like, make believe with friends when I was a kid, and my one of my best childhood friends, her and I came up with so many different scenarios and worlds and characters, and as I got older, I'm like, huh, this might actually be interesting on paper. So that's kind of where I got my inspiration from, was like music and childhood friends and books, and also the short story writing units in school. I always wanted to write more than they wanted to allow me.
Going back to the music aspect of what you were talking about, do you believe that within every song there's a story, or because there's definitely some songs that tell a story, and there are some that others that do not. But do you think you clung to those ones that told stories more than the other?
Not necessarily. It also depended on my moods too, because like certain moods I want to listen to certain songs, certain genres. There's definitely some songs that don't have a clear story. They're just fun, poppy dance music, but then there are definitely also a lot that are more emotional, more story based, and I like it all, to be honest. It's all relative.
Just to continue further on what inspired you to start writing, is there a who
Um,
inspired you to start writing?
Not necessarily a who, definitely a couple different people. Like my grandma always used to tell me stories of her childhood, like when she was a kid, like growing up, and because they grew up on a farm, and so they always like played in this old barn, and there was lots of stuff that her and her sister got up to that they probably shouldn't have got up to, as most kids do. And I continuously asked her to tell me stories. I didn't care if I'd heard them 100 times already. I wanted to hear them again and again and again. And my mom I used to do gymnastics and dance classes as a kid, and so my mom, like we lived about 20 minutes, half an hour out of town. So on the drive in and on the drive out, I would ask her to tell me stories, and she would come up with stories just on the fly. And I remember, and each trip would be like a new chapter to the story that she'd started. So it was really because she just made them up as she went, and I really liked it. I really liked that.
For those people who tell stories audibly and repeat the stories, do you often find that they're never the same way twice?
Sometimes, or I feel like sometimes there's either little bits that are either added in or taken out, whether they forgot them that time around or forgot to tell them the last time around. So not that they change drastically, but I find like definitely different aspects change, whether like a little tweak here or a little tweak there.
Or maybe it comes down to we've heard it differently. It's always been there, but we're hearing it differently.
Yeah, that too.
Wonderful. That's cool. How do you approach the writing process?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, so a lot of times I will be in a place that I don't have my laptop or paper or something to write on, and I'm like, idea sparked. Of course, I'm nowhere near my laptop or anything, so then here I am just listening to this idea in my head on repeat until I can get to my laptop. But the other thing is, I guess I've always been kind of a creative person. This might make me sound a little insane, but the voices in my head speak to me, and when I write, I don't feel like I'm the one writing the story. I feel like I'm narrating it. I am writing out the story that they are living, and they're just telling it to me.
Okay, so I'm not going to guess how many people are listening to this right now because it varies, but I can guarantee you that everybody that's listening who just heard you say about the voices in your head are nodding in agreement with you. And if I'm wrong, somebody email me and tell me I'm wrong, but I bet you I'm right.
We need a poll for do you agree or do you disagree? So that way we know.
No, no kidding, eh? Um, yeah. Question number 3. What is your favorite thing about being a writer?
I love being able to create worlds and characters out of thin air. I like the creativity of it. I like the fact that you can go any direction you want. There's so many different genres and so many different writers and authors out there. And like, I'm a huge fantasy reader myself. And just the amount of different worlds that authors and writers have created, and each one is so unique and so different. It's unbelievable to me. And to be able to also create that myself, sometimes I look back at what I've written, I'm like, wow, did I do that? And it's just kind of interesting how I'm like, this just came from left field and here we are.
You use the word world building, world creating, character building, and stuff like that. And for me, I've always been a poet, so there really wasn't that aspect of
Hmm.
as part of my writing. I've now branched out into other areas, but for me, world building and character creating was always about, well, Dungeons and Dragons, because I used to play it years and years ago, or games like World of Warcraft and things like that. You build your character. You more so with D&D though, you create your world and you create your characters. And I don't know how many times I've actually done that and started writing a book based on what happens in those travels. So world creating is very interesting. I like that term, and there's so many different ways to do it now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Do
it's
you play?
interesting. I have played a couple times. My brother lives in Saskatchewan with his girlfriend right now. They're going to school, but they come back for Christmas, and they got into it out there with some friends, and they came back and they brought some D&D stuff, and we played. Like my brother made like a whole campaign and everything for us, and we had a lot of fun.
Oh, it is fun, and it's a good way to help you practice your world building and character creations.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you balance your personal slash work life with writing, or do you?
It is difficult, because I do work full time. So like I work 8 to 5 Monday to Thursday and 8 to 3 on Fridays. I'm off on weekends, so that's nice. Weekends do give me some time to write, but also like to plan with friends and family. So most of the time I do write in the evening or at night, just because that is when I have the time to do so. Now I don't write every day because life can get hectic and other things need to get done and stuff like that. So it's, I wouldn't say a huge struggle, but it's definitely, you have to definitely make some time for it when when you work full time and you have house stuff to take care of and pets to take care of and, friends and family that also want to socialize with you. So it's definitely an interesting balance, but I think I've made it work fairly well.
She says hesitantly. Do you ever do you find that when you write, sometimes your work life or your personal life sneaks into your stories?
I never thought of that before, but probably. I know there's definitely some like friendship themes in one of the things I'm writing right now, and I think it does kind of reflect on some of the friendships that I have in real life as well.
Well, that's where we draw our inspiration from, though, is what we're surrounded with, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know a couple of people that I've interviewed in the past have created characters that remind them of real life people just so that they can kill them off.
I love that.
And
Genius,
most of them have
actually.
been women, unfortunately, but that have done that. They've killed off a spouse or whatever.
I love that, actually. That's amazing.
There's something you can work on in the
Yeah,
future.
good ideas, good ideas.
That's why we do this. um, how do you think social media, let's just say social media in general, has affected the way writers connect with their audience?
I actually think in a very positive way. As someone who I have three Instagram accounts. I have one for my personal life. I have one for the books that I read, and I do book reviews and stuff like that on the books that I've read. And I've also just recently created an author account so that way I can post about my writing and stuff like that on there. But the amount of support for indie authors and on online on the Instagram and TikTok community is absolutely amazing. And I know that social media can get downright toxic and it can be awful. I've seen the bad side of the internet, but honestly, the online book community has figured it out because I have seen very little toxicity, so much positivity, readers hyping up indie authors and even traditionally published authors. And, if they don't like a book, they are very polite about the review as to why it wasn't for them. Not that it's not for everybody, it just wasn't for them, but it's not a bad book. And everyone is just, and I've connected with quite a few people online from around the world, from different countries and also Canada as well. But it's very refreshing to be on this side of the internet where everyone is just so supportive and so kind and so friendly.
Okay, so you and I connected through Facebook, one of the
Yes.
two writing groups that I'm involved in. I'm not sure which one. Are you in my group or was it
Yeah,
Canada
I think
Writes?
so. The Canadian Writers or Writers of Canada.
Oh yeah, Canadian Creative Writers.
That's it, yes.
Okay. But there are writing groups on Facebook that I've been a part of that I've had to leave because of that toxicity.
Oh, that's
Or the
awful.
group was it stopped being about writing and it started being about everything else but writing. And
Yeah,
so
that's not.
I see what you're saying about toxicity, and but so like in my group, we've tried to negate that altogether, and not be a fluffy happy place, but a place for honesty, right? And
Yeah,
I
and
think that's go ahead.
so I was gonna say, since I've been a part of, like, since I found your writers group on Facebook, I've Like I think I've made a couple posts here and there, but I definitely am more of a silent viewer, and I look at all the posts and you're writing prompts and everything like that, and I it's a very positive page, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, we call people like you stalkers in a good way.
Yes.
Um, yeah, no, it's. I started that group out of frustration from a couple of other groups where it was just negative, 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 and not on topic. And so that's what I said about my group is that it's a non-platform. We're writers talking about writing and trying to help each other as writers, and so that's why it's been a positive group for me. I mean, we've 2,000 people in my group, and they're all happy.
It's like a really positive page, which is also said refreshing from toxicity that you can see online.
Yeah, yeah. And so I would imagine you're part of groups like ReadZ and other groups
Yeah.
like that, or what are some of the good reads? And
Yep.
I'm not sponsoring any of you guys, but if you want to jump on board, feel free. But yeah, no, it's those are the types of places that we should be going to for that positive feedback, for that, um, well, just to let people know if we're, doing well with our writing or not. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It shouldn't be a place that you're scared to post something or ask a question. It should be a place where you can get, whether it's positive or negative feedback, but feedback that's not, I don't know the word I'm looking for, that's not like hateful or
Spiteful?
upsetting
Yeah.
or spiteful. Yeah, just constructive criticism or something like that, like something that's positive, even if it's negative.
Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
um, how do you handle writer's block or a creative slump? Or do you think there
Well,
is such a thing?
there definitely is. I have been in multiple, and it can be very frustrating, especially when like you have the general idea in your head, but for whatever reason, you just can't type out the words, or every word you type out or sentence you type out, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's crap. I need to delete that because that's not good. Because sometimes, like, I used to, if I would get stuck, I would sit for hours just looking at my screen or rereading what I already had and just not typing out a single word. Um, but now, I say now-ish, I still do that sometimes, but now-ish, I'll leave my laptop alone. I won't, because I feel like if I have it open and I'm looking at it and I'm in a creative slump, I'll just get more upset and depressed and just like oh, why can't I do this, like I suck, I'm no good, I can't do, and I get all this self-doubt thought, so I'm like, nope, we need to put the laptop away and maybe give myself a few days to not think about it, and then usually inspiration or ideas will strike when like I'll be driving and a song will come on the radio, as we talked about music earlier, and I'll be like, oh yes, I know what, or I'll be in the shower and I'll be rinsing the shampoo out of my hair and be like, oh, I need to get to my laptop, or cooking dinner, or it can be anything random. Because like if I don't think about it, then that's when the ideas will start to flow again. But if I'm constantly worrying about it and thinking about it, the ideas aren't going to come.
So, would you say that it's safe to say when you're sitting there in front of your open laptop, you feel compelled to have to put something there?
Yes,
And then when you're not there, it's secondary.
exactly. Yeah, it's weird, but yes.
Oh, again, a lot of people are going, yeah, I dig that. I can understand that. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this then. When you have faced writer's block or some, creative slump, what have been some of the interesting ways that you have beaten it or gotten around it to get your creativity back?
Um,
Or unique
Probably,
ways or crazy ways or
yeah, like I said, I don't know if there's any like crazy or super crazy ways, but sometimes like whatever story I'm currently working on or writing, if it's, if the words aren't coming, I'll just, because a lot of times I have multiple ideas in my head all at once, but I try to focus. It doesn't always work out. I try to focus on one, but I have multiple in various stages of being completed. So sometimes we're like, okay, well, this one isn't working out. I'm like, but I have all these ideas ping-ponging around in my head for this other book. So let me just go start writing that
Did you
or
say
add
ping-ponging?
ping-ponging. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And so I'll open up the one of the other many documents and I'll just start adding on or start a new one because I have ideas and then once I either start writing on something else or a different one, then usually inspiration will kind of strike and be like, "Oh, now I can go back to that other one."
Every now and then on my Facebook group, I post a comment, something to the effect of, it really bothers me when I'm working on something, and then all of a sudden something totally unrelated comes, and I have to start working on that one, and I forget about what I was working on and get focused. Does that happen to you?
Yes.
I think it happens to everybody.
I think everyone's in the same boat with that.
I like it, but it gets frustrating because you really want to finish what you were working on to begin with.
Oh, absolutely.
So you do have writer's block. I write till there's nothing left, and then I walk away, and then I come back, and if there's something more, then I'll add. If there isn't, then I'll do something else until something comes back. I don't personally I don't call it writer's block. I just okay, that's all I've got for now.
Yeah, and
Um,
everyone goes through it differently. I feel like whether you are in a slump or writer's block but yeah, everyone I think experiences it in a different way.
so a little earlier we were talking about toxicity or criticism or whatever. So how do you then handle criticism or negative feedback on your work?
Well, when I first started to like show people like snippets, and actually my one of my best friends at the time was like she read a little bit of what I had written, and I let my now fiance also read a little bit. And not that anything was really ever bad, it was definitely constructive criticism, but I did not used to take it well at all. I would get, upset and be like, oh, like, my writing's not good. And then I would, give up for a few weeks or a month. But I was still a teenager at that point. So it was also not that I was immature, but a little immature about things like that. But now, like as an adult, I have one of my best friends actually uh, reading my book right now, and my sister-in-law is reading it, and I have another friend reading it, and they've all given me feedback, and even my one friend, like it wasn't bad advice. It was just, oh, like these things don't make sense. Like maybe you can clarify what's actually happening here. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a good point because like when you're writing, you're also so subjective because you know what's going on. You know what's happening in the story, even if it's in your head, because you know everything because you're the one creating it. But for other people, they might not. So to hear that feedback, now I'm like, you know what? I want this feedback. I want to hear this feedback because ultimately it's going to make me a better writer and my story a better story. So I look forward to not necessarily the negative reviews, but the constructive criticism for sure.
It's often heard or often said that to be a writer, you need to have thick skin.
Yes, I do think so.
And thick skin comes as a result of years and years of putting your stuff out there and exposing yourself and being vulnerable to people. And as writers, we have to be vulnerable because otherwise you're not sharing your work and you're not getting that feedback, whether it's positive or negative.
Hmm.
Do you think that it's possible that negative feedback really is positive feedback in a different form? You know what I'm
It
saying?
depends. Yeah, I think it depends on the negative feedback because like after I've read, like say I've read a book that I really loved, I do like to go on Goodreads and read the reviews. And I like to read the bad reviews to see why somebody didn't like a book that I loved. And some of the bad reviews, some of them are hilarious. Some people just straight up for whatever reason hated the book, did not like it, and they make it known that they hated it. So in that sense, I think that is definitely a negative review to be negative, to showcase, okay, I hated it, this is why. But I've also seen negative reviews that they didn't like the book, but not because it was necessarily a bad book, it just wasn't the book for them.
Fair enough.
So I think it depends on the tone of the review and the tone of the negative criticism on what the person is actually trying to say, and yeah.
A lot of negative feedback is directed in a personal way to the author rather than to what the author has written. Would you agree with that?
I think that also depends too, because I've definitely seen some online bashing of certain authors for certain, say, like certain stances that they've taken or certain things that they have said either politically or
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. And some people are like, oh, I don't agree with what they're saying, so then they go and negatively review books. So in that instance, yes, I feel like they're definitely taking it out on the author, not so the author's writing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also sometimes where they don't even know the author, they just, for whatever reason, the writing style wasn't for them or the storyline wasn't for them. But because they read the book and felt like they wasted their time reading a book they didn't like, they're like, no, didn't like it.
I often wonder, and maybe wrongfully so, but those people with the negative comments, feedback, reviews, or whatever, I wonder if they leave them because they're left, or they don't know enough about what they've read, and it just turned them off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very possible, and unfortunately we'll never know because those people, for whatever reason, leave those negative reviews, but it's very possible that they just didn't either understand or didn't grasp certain concepts.
So like any, so like anybody who's never read fantasy before picks up the Silmarillion and reads that, they're gonna go, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah, yeah.
That's the best example I can come up with because unless you're a fantasy reader reading that, you're gonna get lost, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially with your world building and stuff. If you're not used to it, you're probably not gonna know what's going on for half of a book.
Well, exactly, and I can imagine. Excuse me. I can imagine what the reviews or the comments would be like. Where is this guy going with this? And yeah. I think a lot of a misunderstanding of what people read is another reason why some of the comments that come out in a negative way. Yeah, that made no sense. But you knew
Yeah.
what I meant.
Yes.
I'm going to continue a trend that I've done in the previous 3 seasons, and that typically I ask 7 questions that you are aware of, and then there's the mysterious eighth question. And
Okay.
I promise this won't hurt.
All right.
So, question number 8: what's the most unexpected skill or hobby you've developed as a result of your writing?
As a result of my writing.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's a good question. I don't really like I have a few different hobbies and things that I do sometimes. I don't necessarily know if it's because of reading, but I last year I asked for a wood burning kit for Christmas because I wanted to try it out because also once again creativity. And so I did get one, and then after I got it, I was like, oh, now I need to actually draw, and I'm not an artist. I did not think it all the way through before I asked for this gift.
Guilty.
But so I was like, you know what? So I went to the dollar store, I got a sketchbook, pencils, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna try. We're gonna see what happens. And I actually haven't done too bad. I'm very actually impressed with the things that I have created. Like I've made a couple little fridge magnets on like the back of little like wooden rounds with like some wood burning designs. I made for one of my best friends that's actually reading beta reading my book. I made her like I glued about four little boards together to make like a picture, like regular sized picture looking board. And I wood burned a tree stump with like leaves and mushrooms growing off of it with like Tinkerbell like flying over one of the mushrooms on the tree stump. And I wood burned all of that for her birthday, and she loves it.
Oh my goodness.
So
What an endeavor that must have been.
it took a few weeks, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and probably a couple of curse words here and there, and
Yeah, yeah, because I drew it all out first, and then I have tracer like trace paper, so I was able to transfer the picture onto the board, and then I just had to wood burn it from there. But it was definitely a challenge, but I did enjoy it, and I do enjoy doing it. But I also think like because a lot of the scenes that I've done, I feel are a little like some kind of fantastical and have to do with books and reading. So I think that has definitely carried over a little bit from reading and writing, just the creativity aspect and some of the like fairy woodland scenes that I've managed to draw out.
good. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. We're gonna go move into a section I call shameless plugging. This is where you get to brag about things that you've done or are doing or are going to be doing. And we've kind of established before we started here that you don't have any published books as of yet or stories or anything like that. But you are currently working on a project. So let me skip to that question right away. I'll give it to you here. So you say that you are currently working on a fantasy novel and have been for some time. How close to completion is it?
It is very, very close. It has been fully edited. I'm really only waiting for a cover, so I'm waiting for my cover designer, which is actually a friend of mine as well, to get back to me. She's working. I've got preliminary designs from her a couple months ago. She did some sketches that were absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just waiting on some hopefully final designs that she should have to me by the end of the month. And then after I have the cover, then I will be getting it formatted and, assigning the ISBN number and then self-publishing from there.
And you're going to go through KDP or?
Yeah, probably KDP and Ingram Spark.
Okay.
And I think there's a couple other places, but yeah, because Ingram Spark, I think they distribute to thousands of different places when you self-publish through them as well.
Yeah. So, do you want to tell people how long you've been working on this?
Yeah, I can. So I have been writing since I was like pretty young, like 10 years old, but this story itself, this book that is coming out, my debut novel, I have been writing it since I was 12, 29 now, so it's been a long time coming. Now, obviously, the story has changed multiple times. It has been scrapped and started over multiple times as I grew up and matured and had different tastes and ideas and writing styles. But 2 years ago, I picked up where I left off when I was like maybe 23, 24. And then a couple years ago, I picked it back up from where I left off and I started writing again. And I was in the car driving somewhere and back to the whole music thing. I Maroon 5's Beautiful Mistakes came on the radio, and for whatever reason that's I was like, "Oh, I'm like, "Oh, it's a mistake. He's a mistake. He's not good. He's bad." And then so I got home and I think my boyfriend, now fiance, was on the laptop and I'm like, "I need that." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I need that. I need it now." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Idea, right, need to." And he's like, "Okay, here you go." And I started right from the beginning. I like scrapped what I had, started right from the beginning, and I think that night I wrote at least 5 or 6 chapters
Oh, wow.
that night because it was just I had instant inspiration, and that was when I knew, okay, this is the direction I want the story to take. This is my writing voice, and I was very happy with the way it was turning out.
To me, that's inspiring because that's like 17 years.
Yeah.
17 years that you did not give up. You set it aside, but you did not give up on it, and you're moving forward with it. And I just want to, to anybody out there who's listening who thinks that you may not have what it takes to write or even start writing or keep writing, take an example from what Tyiara just said, because you got to keep going. You've got to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and if you don't persevere, if you don't try, you'll never know what you're actually capable of and what you can accomplish and what you can achieve.
And so, do you have a scheduled publishing date or when it's going to come out?
I don't yet, just because I am waiting to get the cover because I don't want to have a release date and not have a book cover lined up. So I just kind of want to have all of the technical things taken care of just before I have actual like release dates and all that fun stuff.
Excellent. What's the most amusing or unusual feedback you've received from a reader or a friend about your writing?
Unusual or interesting?
Yeah.
Oh,
And was it fair?
it's actually it's all been pretty positive. Like I said, there was some, not that they were negative, but definitely some like hey, maybe you should clarify this, or maybe you should clean this up and explain things a little bit more. But I think I don't really know because like I've got there's only three of them that have read it. Two of them are still currently reading. The one my sister-in-law is finished, and well, she actually read it before I sent it to my editor, and then she read it again after it was edited, so she got to see all the changes that were made, which was really neat. And she definitely said that she liked obviously the edited version better. She said it like the pacing was definitely better and things were explained a little bit more, and just certain things she was like, oh, this thing, like this one thing that happened was, she's like, it was really magical and I loved it. And so that was like really not necessarily unusual, but very nice.
Unexpected.
Yes.
And here's yeah, this is where you get to tell people how to find you. So, where can people connect with you? Facebook, snail mail, TikTok, Instagram times three, and the list
Yeah.
will go on. But so speak slowly, concisely, spell it out if you have to, but let them know where they can find you.
All right. Well, I am on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok yet, but I am on Instagram. So if you want to follow my author account, so it's just my name, so Tyiara dot Nelson, Nelson dot author, and that is my author Instagram handle. And from there, if you want, I do have my book account tagged in my bio. So if you're looking for more bookish content, you can feel free to follow that. Just keep reading account. Like I said, it is in my author bio if anyone is interested.
And do you have an author page on Facebook, or are you in
I don't
LinkedIn, or
I don't have an author account on Facebook yet, but I probably will make one soon. But it'll just be my name, so you can probably find me through Instagram once again. Or just search my name and it should come up once I've got it established.
excellent? Before we close, what would you tell anyone who might be afraid to take the chance at being published or even writing with the goal of being published?
So for writing, first off, if anyone, is interested in writing or don't know where to start, no one knows where to start. Just write. And a lot of people, some people plot for ages. I don't. I just have an idea and away it goes. So if you want to plot. If you want to write, then just write and see where it goes. As for if you're already writing and want to publish, I say definitely look into your options because there's pros and cons to both traditional publishing and self-publishing. I did the pros and cons list myself, looked into both options, and for me, I felt that self-publishing just was a better route for me to take because you have a little bit more control and a little bit more decision making in self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Now they're both valid forms of publishing. There's definitely different aspects to both, but do your research, figure out what works best for you. But before you do publish, a lot of people don't get their works professionally edited. Definitely get yourself professionally edited because your story will be so much better for it. And and if you find a good editor, they'll put so much insight into your story. And I am so thankful for my editor, who is also Canadian, and she's been
Go ahead.
amazing
Go
through
ahead.
the whole process.
Give your editor's name.
Her name is Paisley McNabb. She has a website. It's Perfectly Right. It's right, WRITE.ca. So if anyone is looking for an editor, she is phenomenal. She is so nice, so genuine, and I don't know where my story would be without her hands on it.
Now, I heard you say something to the effect about if you're a plotter or if you're this or that. Are you a pantser, plotzer, or what's the third one? What are the three? Plotters? Pants? Do you write by the seat of your pants? Or are you a combination of those two?
I'm a combination. So I definitely have a general idea before I go into things. I try to write like jots down, and it usually does. I have this whole grand idea. I'm like, I'm gonna write down my plot and my ideas, and then it never happens. Like I have notebooks with half finished ideas, and it's just better once I get to the laptop. So I definitely have a general idea in my head, and I have some notes both on my laptop, on my phone, on my e-reader in its notes place, on in a notebook. Like there are notes everywhere, but it mostly is just organized chaos is what I like to call it, and then it just all combines into my writing.
That's wonderful. Tyiara, thank you very much for agreeing to come and do this. I do enjoy doing these interviews, and yeah, I like to learn about people and how they approach their writing or what they're writing, and so it's been fun. And thank you for taking time out of your day to join me and our listening audience.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a really nice time. This is a interesting chat, and it was great.
Thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Between the Lines, the podcast. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Your passion for literature and the written word is what makes this journey so extraordinary. But before you head back to the world beyond our literary haven, I have a quick favor. If today's episode resonated with you, help spread the word. To explore more about me, or read the blog, or hear all episodes of Between the Lines, head over to www.therandylacey.ca. If you believe in the magic of writing and want to be part of the Between the Lines community, show some love by clicking on the Buy Me a Coffee button in the top right corner of the page. Your support, no matter how small, helps me bring fascinating conversations with talented authors and writers. Your support is crucial to keep this literary ship sailing. Please consider subscribing to be notified of any news about future content. If you have any questions, comments, or are interested in being a guest, email me at randy.btlpodcast@gmail.com. So, until next time, happy reading, writing, and living between the lines.